Welcome to this week's What's for Dinner video. My name is Ashley. I'm going to be showing you 3 different meals I made this past week. I don't always follow recipes exactly, but if you're interested, I've linked some similar recipes down below. The first dinner I'm going to be showing you, I made some baked chicken flautas. You know how much I love my deep fried taquitos, but sometimes you have to go a little bit lighter and not use so much oil. So for this recipe, I'm just going to be using some flour tortillas instead of corn. I'm just starting out with my chicken. I cooked up a couple chicken breasts in my Instant Pot and I'm just working on shredding them up. I seasoned them with all my favorite Mexican seasonings and I'm adding in some fresh lime juice. To make the flauta filling a little bit creamier, I'm going to add in some sour cream as well as some shredded cheese. I'm just going to mix everything together and keep working on shredding up the chicken. So next I'm going to begin rolling up my flautas. I'm just taking my flour tortillas. I did slightly warm them up, that way they're able to roll better and not crack. This is pretty easy though, way easier than rolling up corn tortillas. And I'm just going to place them seam side down on some parchment paper. At this point, you want to have your oven preheating to about 350 degrees, nothing really higher, so that way the outside doesn't just burn. So once you're done rolling them, you just want to spray the outsides with some cooking spray, that way they get nice and browned, and then these just went in the oven till they were done. So of course, I can never have any type of Mexican food without homemade guacamole, so I'm just using one large avocado just to make a small side of guacamole. I also keep my seasonings pretty basic. I'm just using garlic salt, pepper, and lime juice. For the topping of the flautas, I'm just going to cut up a little bit of shredded romaine. I really love the crunch that lettuce gives. This is how everything looked when it was done. I just topped it with the lettuce, salsa, sour cream, and guacamole. It's such a quick, easy weeknight meal. The next dinner I'm going to be showing you, I made some honey garlic meatballs over some white rice. For this recipe, I'm just going to use some frozen ones. These are just the Costco Italian style meatballs. I'd love to make my own eventually and try that out, but for now I'm just going to use the frozen. I'm also going to create my own sauce, so I'm using some soy sauce, honey, lots of honey, sriracha, and some minced garlic. I also like to add in a little bit of water. This just helps dilute the flavor, but also gives it a little bit more sauce. Once the meatballs were just about ready, I went ahead and started heating up the sauce. This will thicken up eventually and really coat the meatballs really well, but for now I'm just going to get this nice and warm. Next, I'm going to place the meatballs down inside of the sauce and really just roll those around, really help the meatballs absorb a lot of that sauce. I also have my pan set on medium-high just to get the sauce nice and hot that it starts simmering. Once it starts simmering, the sauce will start to thicken. you'll see that the sauce really starts to coat those meatballs. Once the white rice was ready, this is ready to be served. This is how everything looked when it was done. I just scooped that on top of the rice with some sauce with a little side salad. The last dinner I'm going to be showing you, I made like a one pot cheesy chicken, broccoli, and rice. I've seen this type of recipe all over Pinterest, but I've just never made it. I'm not the biggest fan of like broccoli, but I try. There are so many different variations of this, but this is just the one that I did. So I'm just taking a part of a yellow onion and dicing that up, and then that will be used inside the casserole. Next, I'm going to work on chopping up the chicken. I'm just taking 2 large chicken breasts and I'm cutting those up into really fine, small bite-sized pieces. For this recipe, I'm going to cook the chicken separate. I'll do that first and then set that aside. You can totally cook this inside the whole pot, but this is just the way that I'm going to do it because I've never made it. So I lightly seasoned the chicken with some salt, garlic powder, and onion powder. I drizzled a little bit of olive oil in this pan and I'm just going to cook this chicken up until it is basically all the way cooked through. This chicken doesn't look that like tasteful and delicious because the seasonings are pretty bland, but it still worked out just fine. Once the chicken was done, I just removed it to a clean separate bowl. Next, I'm going to drizzle a little bit more olive oil in the pan and start cooking up the onion. I of course had to add a little bit of minced garlic. I'm just going to cook the onions down until they're slightly softened, but you also want to be careful not to burn the garlic. Next, I'm going to add in about 1 cup of white rice and saute that around for a bit before I add in 2 cups of water. So next I'm going to add in my liquid of 2 cups of water. I'm also going to add 2 teaspoons of chicken bouillon. So I basically am using chicken broth. I'm going to turn my heat up to about medium high. That way I can get this boiling to start cooking the rice, and then I'll put a lid on it. Once the rice was about halfway cooked, I just added in my cooked chicken as well as some broccoli. I'm going to stir that around and then add in a handful of some Mexican blend cheese and heavy cream. I'm going to throw a lid on it and let that finish cooking up the rice. I did end up adding a little bit more water as well to help the rice cook. Once everything was done, it's time to top the little casserole with some cheese. So I'm just going to sprinkle a good amount of that Mexican blend cheese all over the top and put a lid back on to help melt the cheese. This is how it looked after the cheese had melted. This is such a good meal. I thought it was really good and definitely easy. Probably if you have kids. Thank you so much for watching this week's What's for Dinner video. Make sure you come back next week for another one.